here, and welcome back for a round of forcible spoilers for Winds of the Ominous Moon. Today we are going to be covering the spoilers from last Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and we definitely got some decent looking spoilers and whatnot. So we've got like a bit of darkness, a bit of wind, and a little bit of water, so it's kind of like a mixed bag of what we're getting for this video. But kicking it off right now, we have Praying Mermaid, which is a 3-cost resonator. It's 2 water and 1 void, an 800 mermaid. It's also a very pretty one, and it's also a common, which is kind of bizarre here. So we've got a very pretty common. I would like to get this in the foil full art. I think that would look really nice. At the beginning of your main phase, the weather is thunderstorm until end of turn. So this is another means for you to try and get thunderstorm, and if you really want it that badly, I can just definitely see this being used mainly probably in draft, I would think. Don't know if this would see any main play because we've got cheaper ways of making a thunderstorm. Shayla Sam's light will surely repel the darkness that covers the world. How do you know it's dark if you're in the ocean all the time? Isn't the ocean pretty dark? I'm not too sure. Next up we have a beautiful SR chant. We have the Distortion of Time. It is literally only a 1 cost, but this artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. I'm hoping that we get the release of some artworks pretty soon from the various artists and whatnot as we approach closing into the release of this set. Look at the top card of your deck. You may put it on the bottom of your deck and draw a card, or you can God's Art it for Chrono Break, which is 1 water and 1 time well and 1 void, so it's actually 3. You remove this card in your graveyard from the game, your opponent skips their next recovery phase. Play this ability only during your turn, which is kind of crazy for a God's Art, which is also part of a chant, which is kind of bizarre. I'm not quite sure how to feel about that. It seems like a pretty broken spell, especially when it's only 1 cost, but I suppose unless you don't have, if you don't have access to Time Well, then you can't really ever activate this. So like, I suppose you just need it, or rather you just have one of Kaguya's stones. You don't necessarily have to be playing Kaguya in order to get this. But it seems like a pretty good card here. At that moment, everyone heard the sound of space being ripped apart, which is kind of scary sounding actually. Next up we have a quick cast aura chant, which is very nice, where you're seeing auras in all the different colours. It is Lightning Speed Crash, a 3 cost. It is 1 water and 2 void, featuring the lovely Shayla on the card art here. This card deals 800 damage to target rested J/Resonator. If the weather is thunderstorm, it deals 1200 damage instead. So this one is definitely aimed towards the Shayla / mermaid decks and whatnot, because it says, let's go, 1 hit, 1 kill. That's almost vaguely close to 1 shot, 1 kill. And I want to make memes, but I shouldn't make the memes. Shayla might get mad at me. Seems like a pretty decent card. Again, it's kind of expensive, but it is an aura, so and there's a couple of cards, or rather a couple of resonators and maybe a J-Ruler that will make use of these auras. So it does seem to have some potential here. And then last for blue, we've got the Last Thunder, which is a pretty epic looking rares chant. It is 3 water for the cost. This card gains quick cast as long as it's in your hand and the weather is thunderstorm. Sneaking in a little bit of thunderstorm here. We're finally getting proper thunderstorm support after it kind of got like briefly mentioned and whatnot early on in the cluster, and we were like, is that ever going to be a thing? And Force Will is just like, yes, it is going to be a thing. Search your deck, hand and or graveyard for 3 cards named The Last Thunder and remove them from the game. If you do, destroy all non-magic stone, non-J-Ruler entities. If you searched your deck, shuffle it. So this is kind of bizarre. So you need to make sure that, I don't know if this means that you have to search out 3 of them, or you just search out how many is remaining in your deck. Say if you've got 2 in hand, does this mean that this doesn't resolve because obviously you searched for 2 and not 3? I'm not quite sure how that would work in that instance, but it does seem like a really random kind of card or whatever. But it's also kind of that way where it's like you have to play a play set of this card in order to get its full potential out of it, because otherwise it doesn't really do anything. But it's a pretty bizarre mechanic. This attack contains my everything, from Shayla here, using her magical umbrella and the power of angry dolphins to save the day. Next up, we're going into our darkness. We have Ray, the Black Owl, which is a 2 cost. It's 1 darkness, 1 void, a 500/700 beast. This card cannot be attacked, which is pretty cool. It's also an SR, keep in mind. At the beginning of your main phase, invert this card. So this is a pretty epic one in that you don't have to pay a cost necessarily to invert this card, which I like a lot. She waits ever patiently for the time to be right. Now, we were joking here because as you see when we flip over this card to see that it is 0, a couple of friends were saying to me, hey, turns out 0 was the owl the whole time. And I was like, clearly 0 is not the owl. Otherwise, what is Rhea? Is Rhea still 0? What is going on here? And this doesn't really explain too much. Because it look like, from the implication here, are they implying that Rhea and Zero are not the same person? Are they separate people? Because they do look awfully alike. I'm not quite sure what the explanation here is, but this Zero here looks very, very young. Or I don't know if it's just the way that Lack has drawn Zero in this picture, but she does look really young. So maybe it's a younger Zero? I'm not too sure, but it is very, very bizarre. She is a 800-900 human/inverse, obviously. She has flying, clearly because she's holding onto the owl. Entities you control gain whenever this card is targeted by a spell or ability, cancel that spell or ability. This ability triggers only once per turn. Which is a pretty epic ability to give your Resonator. It just gives it like a kind of like a pseudo protection and whatnot. Obviously only if it targets, so it's not going to stop blanket effect cards or anything like Final Battle. But it is very neat, so you don't have to like constantly be cancelling anything or whatever. So this is actually a really nice card. Also, it stops you from targeting your Resonators with chance. So you need to bear that in mind. You can't like try and buff something because then it's just going to get cancelled. So you need to like try and figure out how you're playing this. Goodness gracious, I'm finally back. Now then, where's Feith? Oh, does someone want to tell her? I'm not too sure. Also, has her staff changed? Her staff looks slightly different, or am I maybe thinking of Kaguya's staff? But it looks a little bit different, but I really like this card. I really want to try and see what it looks like in full art. I bet it will be gorgeous! Moving on, we have the Bird of Demise, a dinosaur for Scarlet to play with. It's a 2 cost, it's got quick cast, which is actually kind of weird. It's 2 darkness, it's a 600/600 dinosaur, obviously. It has the null effect, where when this card is put into a graveyard from the field, your opponent loses 600 life unless they banish a Resonator. So a little bit of punishment there for like just not destroying their Resonators there. Don't think you can eat that one, Carrick. Don't be trying to eat dinosaurs. Just stick with the chickens and the piggies. Like, you're going after a dinosaur a bit too much, I think. Especially this one. It looks very, very scary. Next up, we have Knight of the Black Moon, a were-rabbit for darkness, which is kind of strange to see. It's a 4 cost, it's 2 dark and 2 void, 1000, 1000. When this card enters the field, each player discards a card. I can maybe see this being helpful for Scarlet a little bit, like getting rid of your hand pretty quickly, just dumping stuff. Other than that, I'm not quite sure what deck would like to play it. Maybe, I don't know, Kaguya, I'm assuming, maybe she would want to use it. To return this world to nothing, those girls desire nothing more. So clearly, they have also been corrupted by the will of the evil Kaguya, and this is where things get bad. And then finally for this set in the darkness category here, we've got Ray's Gale. Well, at least we now have official name for Zero/Ray's Owl. It's a quick cast chant rather. It costs 1 darkness, as I'm trying to say. Target Resonator gains 0/-500 until end of turn. So it just loses 500 defense, or rather it gains. So it makes me think, are they wording it in the fact that, because it should say target Resonator becomes a 0/-500 until end of turn, or I'm not quite sure what they're trying to say here. This would make me think they're saying, hey, it has 0 attack and it's got -500 defense, or it's losing 500 defense. I'm not quite sure on the wording of that here, but it seems very, very bizarre. Everything pierced by Ray's black feathers became bound to the ground by the power of darkness. Darkness, like this probably implies to Zero's own ability to use some kind of dark magic, and obviously referencing to Rhea being a darkness kind of ruler/creature, whatever you want to call her. And then finally, we probably have the most interesting cards from last week, I feel like. Or was it? I'm not too sure, but we got some pretty interesting cards. We have Ciel, Ancestor of the Priestess. At the end, it's basically an elf ruler. It's got Judgment for 1 green, Energize for 1 green, and her only other ability here is, at the end of your turn, attach target aura in your graveyard to this card. Kind of crazy that her Judgment is 1 green. I can't actually tell whether Ciel was ever confirmed to be a guy or a girl, but it seems to be Ciel is the ancestor to Feasting. I wondered why they looked so familiar. He/she, I can't remember what gender Ciel actually is, wasn't actually just young Feasting, they were just Feasting's ancestor. And at the bottom here it says, who's there? Lend you my body, you say. Can't be helped, just this once. So it looks like either revived Feasting or Feasting's spirit has gone back in time to potentially stop Kaguya or help to stop Kaguya, but in order to do that she needs a body. So she's like, hey, here's my ancestor, let me hit up that homeboy and get some possession going, but good possession because, you know, she asked first before she did it. But very, very interesting. Also, the artwork is very, very beautiful, of course. And then flipping over, we have Phantom Wind Feasting with the 2 cats here. We've got Tama and McKay, which is pretty epic. She's a 1000 elf, obviously, and she's got a big wall of text. So incoming massive reading of the card. When this card enters the field, choose up to 1 for each aura attached to this card. Put 4 100/100 counters on target Resonator you control, or put 2 400/400 Wind Spirit Resonator tokens with flying into the field. Or recover up to 3 target magic stones recover up to 3 target magic stones. Normally it says you control, but it just says magic stones. Or you gain 1000 life, or draw 2 cards, or this card deals 800 damage to target J/Resonator. That is a lot of abilities going on there. So basically you can choose 1 for each aura attached to Feasting. So that's a multitude of possibilities there, I believe. So how many abilities is that? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 abilities here. So potentially if you get up to 6 auras, you're getting all of that. Other than that, you're getting to pick and choose. This card gains imperishable as long as there are 3 or more auras attached to it. Or when this card is destroyed, remove all auras attached to it from the game. Basically the idea with this new Feasting is that she wants to use all them auras, get them dumped into the graveyard, attach them to her, and then when she flips over, just crazy shenanigans are happening, which seems pretty epic. And at the bottom here it says, the wind that carried this world to the future had disappeared like a dream. So I'm not quite sure what that's meant to mean. Does this mean that now the future has actually changed and there's no like changing it back to the way it was? Does this mean everyone that we loved is not dead? I'm not too sure, but the artwork is very, very nice. I like Feast's like kind of cheeky smile here, and she's got her big hat, and she's got the help of the 2 kitties. So I love that so much. This seems to be probably the ruler that you want to go after in this set, because I think this is the one to get. Next up we have an aura, funnily enough, a chant of Winds of Guidance. It's 2 cost, it's 1 wind and 1 void. Search your deck for 3 chants and put them into your graveyard, then shuffle your deck. So this is just easy aura dumping if you need to get a hold of it. As Feasting took a step, winds of many colours blew about as the nearby scenery began to transform. So heck, you could stick any basically aura into your deck. Doesn't need to necessarily be one that you've got the colour for, but you could just stick it in, use this chant to dump it into your graveyard, and then you can attach it to Feasting, and then you'll have happy days and whatnot. And then next up we have Cecil and Tia. I always get Cecil and Ciel mixed up. Maybe that's why I was getting the genders confused. I was thinking of Cecil when I should have been thinking of Ciel. But it's good to see these elves back again. They are a 4 cost. They are 2 wind and 2 void, 1000/1000. You can pay a green, and this card deals 100 damage to target J/Resonator, or you can tap them and recover 2 magic stones. Seems like a pretty awesome ability for just tapping them, and they are a 4 cost, so you could, well, I think there's other means to cheat them in or whatever, just considering their cost, but it seems really awesome. Also, they are a rare, which is a very, very nice indeed. So it seems like, I think this is implying that Fair is actually dead, and these are the 2 left to kind of rule what remains of the elves, if they are going to continue with the royalty. The 2 who fought for the sake of the elves had inherited Fair's strength and kindness. Yeah, I think that heavy implies that Fair is dead. But I guess some people would be happy that Fair is dead. I mean, he did cause some upset in the meta and whatnot. And then finally, we have a magic stone, which is Feasting's magic stone. Ethereal, I think if that's how you pronounce it correctly, Ethereal Wind Magic Stone. It just looks like a giant egg. It looks like such a crackly but yet smooth egg. It looks really nice. You tap it and produce green, obviously because it's for Feasting. You can then banish the card and put an aura from your removed area into your hand. So this is a way that once all those auras that you kind of discarded or that got removed from Feasting after she died, this is a way for you to get one of them at least back into your hand. Our most distant wishes will one day become reality. Well, I certainly enjoyed these spoilers, guys. I think it was awesome to see Feasting make a comeback. Zero has made a comeback. We get a name for our little owl dude. We get to see Cecil and Tia. These spoilers were actually really good. And I'm just wondering, who do you guys think that you're going to build out of this cluster? Are you going to stick with Rhea and now her fully unsealed form, even though the last ability wasn't really that cool? Are you going to go with Feasting and use like aura all over the place? Or are you going to be a maverick and buy 3 boxes and get that super expensive Kaguya? I'm not too sure. I mean, right now, I don't think I'm leaning towards a ruler. I think I'm leaning towards beefing up some previous decks with some of these new cards and everything. But I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Let me know down below what you thought of these spoilers, and I'll be back tomorrow with another round of spoilers and our FOW video. Until next time, guys, I will see you all later. This video was made possible thanks to patrons such as Houston Moore, Alucard, and Craig McCutcheon.